Okay, hi.
Hey everybody, we just did our countdown, said, hey, how you doing? Welcome everybody to the new season of Everyday Intuition. I am the conscious medium, Brandon Ross, and joining me today is an entrepreneur. And she's just not an entrepreneur. She owns about 2,200, give or take, businesses. I can't remember if it's like five or like 2,500. But Lorraine Toth joins us. She's a photographer. She has a cupcake business. She's an author. She's a self help guru. She's been all over the world. She talks to strangers and celebrities the exact same way. She's fantastic in a whole bunch of ways, and she encompasses the energy of using your intuition every day. Lorraine, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
I know, right? And it's funny, you and you always kind of do like a pre-show thing, and you and I were talking about, you're like, I just know so many mediums, and so many mediums know me, and we're going to talk about one of the books that you've written here in a couple of minutes. But it's funny, you're one of these enigmatic people that energetically people are just drawn to you, like from across the room and everything else. And by the way, those of you that are kind of looking for low hanging fruit, they see you kind of, the buxom photography, hair and everything else. But then when they actually start to talk to you, they go, holy crap, I can't hang with that. Like, it's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
you just have this energy of like, I know what you're looking at, but can we have a conversation here? And your energy just consumes it. And the thing that always took me whenever I've met with you is your energy and your passion and your drive. So, Lorraine, tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of like when people ask you, who are you? How do you describe yourself?
First and foremost, bubbly and happy and very energetic. And I identify with creative and artistic and
Yeah.
just driven, I would say.
And you know what I think the cool thing is about this too is that that artistic drive, I mean, for someone like me, that's actually what I sense and feel first anyways. But I see where that kind of, gets waylaid because of what you do. And you've got so many of these pursuits, and you've had connection with a lot of different industries, for lack of better terms. What drove you, and we'll talk a little bit about, some of these as we go along. What drove you into saying, hey, I want to be a photographer? How did that start for you? Because it's the creative, but then it's also the, hey, I'm working for myself thing.
Yes. Well, that started because back in the day, I think it was 2005, I wanted to do a pinup shoot for my then husband, and I searched all over, and there was no one locally doing it. So
Mm,
I was like, I can do that. So, never having done professional photography in the past or posed models, so I
yeah.
took one lesson from a local photographer, Dan Doyle, and then from there, I started my pinup photography business, and that
Isn't that
was in 2000.
fantastic? So, and you've actually had a lot of reach with that. I'm going to actually show some of the, some of the website stuff that you're doing here. While you talk, I mean, you've had far reach with this. You've actually worked with some, it's some pretty, pretty big stuff, pretty national stuff. Talk a little bit about that.
So I've had exhibits for my photography, which was always a goal of mine. One that I'm most proud of was at the Saratoga Auto Museum, and it was for all of my classic vehicle photography, which I never intended to do when I started out back in 2006. So that was a huge accomplishment. I just started that series that you're looking at now, which is called In the Weeds. So what I do is I go on kind of like a treasure hunt, looking for abandoned vehicles in in nature, basically, and then I take their picture.
How
Um,
historic is this?
I
Was this
just
on? Where did you find this?
That's in Clifton Park, actually.
Is it really?
There's
By the
no
way,
park in my house.
those that are sitting here in the I hope I don't insult anybody, but it's a very I don't want to say it's an uppity community. I've been in Clifton Park now for a year, but it's not like I've been I'm a stranger to it. There's definitely a very much keep up with the Joneses. You Stepford. By the way, guys, this is in your backyard, just to let you know.
Just so you know, you might see that.
There you go. I don't. And by the way, if this was like a Facebook Marketplace ad, it would be like needs work, right?
You're fine.
So, so tell me about that because I think that's kind of a gateway into your depth because it's really, when people start to like chase things that are like, I mean, listen, I don't, and again, this isn't a stereotypical thing, but if somebody were to meet you, I mean, I'm literally learning the depth of this as I'm talking to you. Is, what made you chase cars? What made you chase like abandoned landscapes?
Well, chasing cars began because I'm obviously obsessed with the 1950s. I really feel I should have been alive during that era. Just that glamour and that time, and even the vehicles to me are beautiful. Just their body lines and the taillights and everything. So I started with vintage vehicle photography, and then just through COVID, I just started this in February of last year, so less than a year ago, finding these abandoned vehicles, just because I needed an outlet because back then everything was shut down as far as photography. You couldn't even do a one-on-one photo shoot. I
Yeah,
needed
that's
something to have that creative outlet. So I was like, oh, I'll just go take pictures of vehicles in the woods.
yeah, and this is one of these things where it's, and I'm glad you're bringing up, the real time of COVID right now, because I think that it's very much, we begin to kind of like go through this, and even myself, I mean, I'm actually ridiculously grateful that it happened the way that it did, because now I'm doing all this video stuff where before, people would be like, oh, I got to go see Brandon and, that sort of thing, which is great and it's fine. And when we get back out there, it'll be fantastic. However, on the other side of that, there's this very real, thing that I think a lot of people like caught this wave, whatever this wave is,
Yes.
to be able to like find your truth in a different way where you're like, if I ever had time, this is what I would work on. And this is exactly what ends up coming out of it, right?
Got time.
You're chasing rickety old cars. And by the way, like if a treasure hunter or, American Pickers ever saw this, they'd,
Oh my God.
yeah,
Yes.
can't you just see him right now and like do that? All right, so listen, we're on, you're being a pinup. You're gonna be Danielle,
Yes.
and I'm gonna be what's the lead guy's name? And by
Okay.
the way, anybody that starts writing underneath this that's saying you're the fat one, I'm gonna go right after you. I'm the tall, intelligent guy. Which, by the way, I'm gonna kind of do this. So okay,
There you go.
is this him? Like when he's
You're
like
the narrator.
negotiating, doesn't he do this?
You look
You're
like the
totally the
narrator.
Danielle character. You're totally the Danielle character. Okay, so we're gonna role play this because
Okay.
you're not new. You're not new to role play, right?
Have you seen my portfolio?
Well, then it looks like I've reached a vein. We'll talk about the cosplay here in a second. But here we go. So listen, you've got to give me a call and you've got to tell me that somebody's going to sell this.
Oh, hi, Brandon. I found this abandoned truck on the side of the road in Clifton Park. I'd like you to come take a look at it and tell me what it's worth.
So Danielle calls us and she's got this premier vehicle. And I'm telling you that after years of being a picker, this one right here is the holy grail. I'm sorry. That's the worst American Pickers ever. But he calls everything that like you find abandoned in the woods. And I don't know if you follow that show or not, but he found the Aerosmith. It's a really, if you watch one episode, they found the original Aerosmith van for touring. Totally kick out. Like that was the one where I'm just like, all right, this is okay. Little staged. Really, you found another Coke sign? It's like, and then all of a sudden he's just like, yeah, we found this in the woods, and it actually wasn't too far from upstate because it was like right over the border in Massachusetts, in the woods, just like that.
Okay, well, maybe I'll find something like that, like a DeLorean for Back to the Future or something.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? So, yeah, like talk about that. What would be something where you would be like, this is the one thing that I'm kind of eternally searching for when I go to that. I mean, and don't say bodies, don't say dead bodies, because I'm up to here with those.
Yeah.
What about like what would make you go, oh my gosh, it happened for me. The thing happened.
Well, there is something that I'm searching for. It's in Clifton Park, and it's on this huge parcel that's like 50 acres. And I went searching for it last year, and I couldn't find it. Like I was just wandering aimlessly through the woods, probably not safe, but I kept looking for this vehicle that I found an image online. And so that is kind of a treasure hunt that I'm going to go back to this year after hunting season and go through and try to
Wear
find.
orange and leave your locator on.
Yes,
Leave your location on.
yes.
So not to capture low hanging fruit here, but a bunch of mediums. Why don't you call a few of them and say, where do you think this is?
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay,
I
well, that'd be great, actually.
share that with you. So with the photography, and again, you do things like weddings, you do headshots. I mean, you happen to do mine. Thank you very much. And by the way, that's actually how you and I met. I sent you a message. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I know 15,000 photographers, and again, they're all good.
Mhm.
But when you go to do this, I'm like, I need something different. I'm going in a different place. So, I would certainly give you the photo credit on it every time I would say, hey, everybody, here's another headshot. And the joke was, in that photo shoot, I was like, yeah, I need something with a jacket and I need something with a corporate feel. And you're like looking at me, you're like, dude, really? Well, lo and behold, I needed it this week. So here we go.
See, we got it though. We got like 4 different looks, I think, for you.
Yeah, the one that will always be retired though is the leather jacket. That was a little, and it was a judgment call, and it was, in the moment I'm like, yeah, I'll be sassy, and then I'm like, Brandon and leather, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's all good. But even in that picture, it had nothing. The clothes were off, but the pictures themselves were still like really cool. And if somebody was going to come to you for a photo shoot, whether it be a headshot, whether it be a boudoir, whether it be a, just kind of having fun, type of thing, what should they expect from you? Like how do you lead them? How do you guide them?
Yes. So I'm used to working with complete amateurs. That's what I've been doing for over 14 years. So I'm used
Compliment accepted.
to, but I'm used to like people coming in like deer in headlights, shaking, nervous, and I have to calm them down so they can feel comfortable, especially in boudoir shoots. I mean, they're half naked and I have to calm them down so I can capture their spirit through the lens and not have them looking like, a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
So I coach you through the whole thing. I think that's a strong point of mine is the ability to communicate so they can relax and give me the image I need. So.
Yeah, and it's, and again, it's one of those things. This is a part that I think is why people would listen to a podcast like this is really kind of understanding the process. So, what are you listening for? Like, are you just going purely on gut? Or are you also like, I mean, is there a voice in your head? Are you just like, I just know where this is supposed to go? So maybe you're kind of seeing, the finished product as you're talking. You're like, no, you got to move your head like this, and I need you to, because your instructions are usually like very specific and always pay off.
Yes.
Because even if that's not the position, you're like, oh, just a little bit more, or whatever the case may be. What's your process with that? What are you listening to? What's guiding you?
That I'm looking at the person and I'm seeing what their body's giving off, their energy. Everyone has the better side of their face. So I always try to look for that and capture that. And then the slightest tilt in your chin can make a huge difference on the way the light's hitting you or the way you convey yourself. Body language is huge. Like if you're an entrepreneur, you want to show that you're strong and, powerful and intelligent. So you don't want to come in concave and look weak. You want to look more dominant. So body language is huge. And in boudoir, you want to have that sexy face. You don't want the deer in headlights. You have to really get into the zone and the role.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
And and it's funny because, a lot of people, ask me and they're like, they want to kind of cue this up, and it's kind of funny. Well, it's kind of funny because a lot of people are like, and again, those that know my journey, and you and I actually talked about this because we have this in common insofar that the challenge at times, is sitting there within, within the weight, so to speak. And boy, this is blown up, but I'm going to share it anyways. I don't know how you did it, but you literally, this is, and by the way, I have sent this to people. Actually, I just want to be able to, there's comments here that I don't want to show necessarily, but yeah, because I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, I made it to your thing, and you're like, okay, all right, I'm a Pisces, but I identify as a Leo. But yeah, I'll figure out how to blur it out there. Just look to the left, guys.
Yeah.
Don't look to the right.
Okay.
So, like you literally took 50 pounds off of me. Like, people are like, boy, how'd you lose all that weight? And I'm like, great lighting.
Well, it is posture. You weren't even Photoshopped. Like I didn't liquefy your neck is what it's known as in Photoshop worlds, where you're like,
Yeah.
suck everything in. I didn't even do that. It's just lighting and posture. And clothing. Clothing is huge, which is why I give you all those pointers prior to your shoot.
Right. Right. Well, and I think it was really kind of interesting too when you were, when you're doing this. And by the way, that was just not a shameless plug to say, hey, like my picture. It's really, I can speak from the example of, the guidance that you gave was great, and whether it was a corporate headshot or a fun headshot. I mean, you and I have yet to do the boudoir, but I'm open. It's all good.
It's okay.
It's all good. When in Rome, do you actually have guys do that?
I have photographed a couple guys, but not in boudoir. And then I also photograph drag queens and cross dressers a lot. So I am
Love that.
open to any type of photography. To me, it's all art, and I don't believe in boundaries. So I'll photograph anything.
Well, and and I also think that that's also part of like the spirit that you need, and you really embrace that with everything that you do because, on top of the photography stuff, and this is probably, and I remember saying to you, and this was something I walked away with. This is when I knew you were a business. Are you ready?
Yes,
You said to me, I can do that on, it was either a Monday or Tuesday, and you said that's my photography day.
yes,
And that to me spoke volumes as to who you were because you're like, I have all these passions and I had to organize my passions. We're going to talk about a few more of them here. But how did you come to terms with being like, okay, how do you segment time? Because this is one of those things that when you become highly intuitive, and especially as a business person, you come up with flaming ideas. Like I got a whole bucket full of ideas and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get to that. Meanwhile, I can't even schedule a podcast until the third week of January for the new year. Like it's just how it rolls, right? So how talk a little bit about your process and how you organize and how you stay on task.
yes. Well, I'm extremely task oriented, and my boyfriend makes fun of me for it because I have to-do lists where I break it down by the hour, and that's just how I work and that's how I function. Having run a business where it's you can get a new client every hour, you have to be structured. Or then when I was scheduling 42 employees with bakery, everything for me runs on a clock. So I write down my day, and my biggest joy is when I get to cross off on my to-do list something that I've completed. So I think going into it organized and with a plan is extremely helpful for me.
So what happens when you don't get it done, or what
I
happens
look
when you
at
have to
it and
schedule?
I was like, okay, so what happens? I always try to reassess what happened to make me not accomplish my goal today. And can I do it tomorrow? Do I roll it over? Am I not being realistic? I look into that.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Listen, there's two questions that you can always ask yourself when you do that, when you start to do this work and you start like working with spirit and intuition, and we'll talk a little bit about that for you as well. But when you start doing that, you ask yourself, am I crazy? Because
Yeah.
you just need that filter of like, am I nuts? I mean, I've met some people that are like, hey, I'm channeling spirits, and I'm like, no, you're not, you're crazy. And then other times where it's people that like are afraid to come out of their shell, and I'm like, you're not crazy, and they're like, oh my god, I just asked myself that. That's like a good thing.
Yes.
So when you say, am I being realistic? That's the businessman
Yes.
intuition check of being like, am I dreaming too much? Am I trying to pack it in? Am I burning myself out? And it's funny, I've actually been talking to, I alluded to the conversation with, about suddenly needing the whole, business jacket look.
Okay.
Um, I'm working with companies again to help them with their, mindfulness programs, with their energy and that sort of thing. And that's one of the things that you talk about. It's like, do you have unrealistic expectations of where you can go? It's great to be able to fill your time. It's another thing to be successful with that time,
Yes.
that you have. So yeah, you've got a ton of ventures, and I know that this is very, how do I want to say it? It's very um, COVID related to be like, pro and con and that sort of thing. And I just spit into my microphone. It's a good thing you're not here because COVID everywhere. Um, but I'm sharing the Betty's page now, and the Betty's cupcakes. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a photographer by day, but at night, I make cupcakes. And again, this isn't just making cupcakes for your son um, for his, for his classmates and birthdays, that sort of thing. Like when this was thriving, you had a lot of really cool things going on. Talk about your mission with this, and talk about your process and what brought you to it.
With Betty's.
Oh
So
yeah.
Betty started in 2009, and at that point, I had five physical locations, 42 employees. So I got a crash course in MBA basically, and learning how to run a business with multiple locations. And from there, then most recently, I just reopened to doing wholesale and special orders. And I liked that business model better because I'm just relying on myself. So, Proctor's was one of my biggest clients. So I was making thousands of cupcakes for their Broadway shows.
Mm,
But with
wow.
COVID, obviously, there is no Broadway or shows or anything. So I've recalibrated again.
Yeah. Well, listen. I mean, I'm very much about, You know, and I agree with you. And the wedding cupcake, some of the pictures that you had in some of these is like, just are you kidding me? And by the way, you know, typical to Sass, you've always got the hook, right?
I do.
And to call them bra sizes is just hysterical.
Yes. Well,
Like
there's
it's just like, by the way, you just made it okay for like every guy that's in a planning wedding. And by the way, having planned a wedding, having been part of it, it's like, honey, what do you think of the cupcakes? And then what better way to get them involved to say, would you like the A cup, the B cup, or the? I'm sorry, what? What?
it's the best. It's such an icebreaker. I mean, and when I was at the track doing a live filming thing with Two Buttons Deep, we were going around talking about the A cups and the B cups, and people just, you can't help but smile. It just totally breaks the ice.
Well, it's also kind of funny too because you also have this whole, this whole way about you that allows yourself to, really kind of understand like what people need to hear when they need to hear it. And I think that's incredibly important, to this. I mean, and you didn't just bake, you didn't just bake. You were also, you had the whole TV show attached to it as well.
Yeah, I've done filming at that show that I had a film crew of 9 from Italy that were
Mm.
filming me for Italian MTV basically. So they followed me around for the day, and that's what's showing now. That
So you're
was so
big in
fun.
Italy?
What was that?
You're big in Italy?
I was back in the day. Yeah, this was 2010, I think.
Oh my gosh. So, wow. I mean, by the way, enter the joke. I'm huge in Japan.
Yes.
You're welcome. I'll be here all weekend. So with it, like, how did you get hooked up with that? How did you, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit just so that people,
They found me online. I have no idea how they found me. And it was that Italian film star, and they found me and said, "Hey, we're coming to America and we're bringing a film crew of 9 Italians." And I was like, "Yeah, sure you are." But they
yeah,
showed up.
I can't quite either you're a deranged murderer
Yeah.
and Craigslist doesn't work for you
Yeah.
anymore, or, right?
Yeah. And then, but at the time I had both businesses. So they started out filming me here in the bakery, and then they followed me and I had to make him into a pinup. So he became a bearded pinup. Oh, that's what's showing right now. So I transformed him into a woman, into a photo shoot with him. This was all the same trip. So that's
This is
me.
so awesome. This is awesome. So he's an Italian actor. Like, what was
Yeah.
his claim to fame? Like,
Yeah.
was he in the Italian version of you know, was he in, Ocean's Ocho or something? Like, what was he?
It was like an Italian MTV Cribs or one of those things. But he also was on one of those reality shows where you search for love. So here in
Oh,
America,
jeez.
so he did gain some fame here in America
So
as
so
well.
so you did you did read between the lines then. You were like, are you gonna propose to me at the end of this? Like, did you, like, in the middle of it, were you just like, were you like, oh, dude, like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Italian. Like, how do you break up with somebody like that? Like, just say no.
Yeah, and no, no compared. I don't know. I don't know what to
I
say.
hope I didn't skip the. Oh, you even made him use the women's room.
Yeah. Oh, there
This
he
is
is.
This is fantastic. By the way, he could have shaved a little closer.
I know. It was
I mean,
so
listen,
funny.
I'm not critical. Your hair work was fantastic. The fact that you squeezed him into that size, what is that, a size 6 maybe?
Yeah, that's a small dress, and then I put the wig and the hair flower on him, and I taught him how to pose, and I think I did pretty well, minus the beard.
That's fantastic. Okay, this episode's making me feel funny.
Pictures I have not seen in like 15 years.
Oh my gosh. So we're gonna skip over. We'll skip back to that one. Oh God, it's on my screen still, and they're showing the cherry part.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
so yeah, and by the way, you can find that on bettystreats.com, the wedding cupcakes. And again, like as COVID kind of, are you planning? You had even mentioned that things are starting to kind of get going again. Are you planning to have that take off for you again?
The cupcakes, yes.
Yeah.
As long as weddings and things like that are allowed, I will totally be jumping back into that. But
Well,
right
that's
now,
yeah, and that's a double whammy for you in a
you're
lot of
welcome.
ways because you're doing the photography and I'm sure that like you had like the ultimate package like get Lorraine all day long. I will do your photography, I will do your cupcakes and everything else and it's like I think that's like an ingenious way of being an entrepreneur when you're able to mix all of your passions together. I think that's super cool. How do you find your creativity for this? Like, I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot of energy that goes into both of those. So,
I'm
so
born with
what's your
it.
process? What's your process to stay, I say it's staying clean, filling your guff, finding, reason and passion. How do you do that? How do you operate?
I mean, I was born with this creative gene, and it's just something I need to get out. And I wrote a poem in my first book, and it's the creative blood that runs through my veins. So it's not something I can control. It has to come out. So whatever that outlet is, if it's painting or photography or baking cupcakes, I just need to do something to get it out. I can't let it stay there, I guess.
And I think that there's some value in this too, that it's that heart of like understanding that you have this passion,
Yeah.
and it's recognizing it. and and do you recognize that it's intuition, or are you just like, I'm not going to overthink this, I'm just going to go with the flow? How do you embrace, because you are working with spirit, whether it's the
Yeah.
spirit within you, whether it's the spirit around you,
Yeah.
and even when you're doing those photography sessions, you're working with a person's spirit because they're showing you, do it this way, and then you don't have to edit out his neck. By the way, thank you for publicly saying that
I
you didn't
didn't.
eliminate everything.
I didn't liquefy, which people that know Photoshop will understand that.
That is fantastic. And by the way, did everybody hear that? Did everybody hear that? She did not have to touch up that photo at all. The grays are still here. It's funny. In the last year and a half, I actually have less grays. Like,
That's
I went like super gray for a little while. But anyways, back to your creativity. How do you keep it clean? How do you keep the fire going?
I don't have to choose. It's just always there. It's me. It's who I am. So I don't have to. It's more I have to calm it down because I have so much that I want to do. It's more that it's redirecting and trying to, okay, maybe today you're not going to paint and bake a wedding cake. Today you're going to write a book. It's more
Yeah.
like
Yeah, and again, oh, great segue, Lorraine. Like, I just come on, that was an A plus.
that.
That was an A plus in terms of segues. That was just fantastic. But and again, I'm going to say this from the standpoint of, kind of being cut from the same cloth. You and I being cut from the same cloth, insofar that it's like there is a lot of stuff. And the challenge that I tend to have is I get too many ideas too quickly. And then in being a medium and having psychic ability and having intuition and all those things, I have found myself that I think I was really sideways for a really long time until I really got in touch with Buddhism. Spoke to me, but that doesn't make me a Buddhist. The idea of being able to center myself, stay in the moment, that sometimes is the most difficult thing. Do you meditate at all? I mean,
I
how do
do
you?
meditate. That's one of my most favorite things. I do guided meditations with Deepak and Oprah, and then a very hot Epsom salt bath. And to me, that's like a cleansing. So I tend to feel like sometimes I take on energy. So if there's like black energy or dark energy that I'm around, I need to like refocus and get that out. So an Epsom salt bath with meditating at lavender Epsom salts, really hot water, like that is my thing to get back to Zen.
It's amazing. I just had a conversation with somebody about, and of course, I've had all these, fun things happen to me where like, feet and that sort of thing, surgeries and whatnot. And I was thinking to myself, like, I haven't been in a bath in like forever. Do you ever do the float tanks?
No, I never have. I should do that. They're probably not
That
going
is
right
one
now.
of those things that are just like holy Toledo. It's just like super. I've done it once,
Uh-huh.
and it's one of those things where you literally leave your body.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to get back to this. And in 2020, I'm like, this was, I do archetype lists. I don't do, the day-to-day list. Yeah, I do them, but I freaking hate them. You love crossing them off. I love looking at the end of it. Like, if I do a list for Monday, I'm happy when
Uh-huh.
they're done by Friday. This is how I roll.
Okay, yeah, yeah. You're
But
ridiculous.
the overarching things, I'm like, oh, I want to do, my self-care plan had in it float tanks. Well, float tanks are like, you come in here, we got to, we're not gonna bother. I'm also gonna jump out of a plane. That's the other thing I got to do. But anyways, um, I digress. So you brought up the book. This is kind of fun. And again, I joke with you often. You're like the center spoke of like every medium in upstate New York, where they just, either you're their photographer, or whatever, and having this enigmatic energy that you have, you become a really tough read. And it's not that you don't have spirit around you, it's that you're either super attracting it or you're super pushing it out. And
Uh-huh.
you do so many dynamic things within a day, and when mediums connect, they connect with the high points, the low points, that sort of thing. Your points are like bing, 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 bing. It's like, if we're just gonna pick up the highlights, like I can read what was going on for you between 6 and 8 this morning because that's how high the peaks go, right? But the book, I gotta talk about the book. The book is pretty fun. Um, so you wrote a book, and again, you've got a couple of books out. We'll talk about all of them here, at least in passing. You've got Psychic Serendipity, and it's funny. I really like that you have like this past stuff. And by the way, those of you that are still waiting for me to talk about her past life stuff, when she brought up the 50s and being a pinup, hang on because it's coming. So
Ooh.
first of all, I'm going to have a link down below where you can click on it and get buy 100 of these. Which, by the way,
Yes, please.
right? So you've got it in the paperback format. Talk a little bit about the book. What was the inspiration? What's it
Yeah.
about? Why aren't I on the cover? So forth.
Yeah, I know, right? You should have been in that snow globe with me.
There you go. By the way, if you want that look right there, you would definitely have to use Photoshop or a scalpel. There's a couple of ways you could have gone for me with that look, but walk us through the process. What's it about?
So the book started with a reading from a psychic, not you, back in 2017. And my question, I had been single for 7 years. My question was, when am I going to meet my soulmate? Always, anytime I would meet a psychic. So I do this reading, and she tells me when I'm going to meet my psychic. She tells me initials. She tells me everything. And it spurred this life where I would constantly be looking. Anytime I would meet someone named David, who she said I would meet, I'd be
Hmm.
like, is he the one? Is he the David? So it made me think. So I then wrote this book, which is 60,000 words, which is a ton of words. It's my most prized possession of
Go
words.
figure.
And so I just went on this journey to try to find my David. And then it became this fictional romance novel. But there's a lot of true to life in it.
Hmm.
Um, and I would love for it to be made into a Hallmark movie.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be? I mean, listen, I'm gonna have to check my schedule, but you know, I do acting.
Okay.
Just
Hey.
telling you. Yeah, I
There you
could
go.
play.
Well, it's a cowboy. So the main character, JD, is a cowboy. And then obviously the girl, Sadie, is me. Um,
Well, I was thinking about being your medium, but whatever.
oh, okay.
I mean, if you want me to be your love interest, Lorraine, this podcast just took a left-hand turn for everybody. But so you took like real life events, and again, not too dissimilar to what you do, even in the cupcakes, even in the photography. So that kind of created an inspiration to you. How did you find the discipline to write a book? Maybe I'm asking for personal advice here.
Yeah, well, it's very hard. It wasn't, I worked on it, in segments for years actually. And I don't have any formal writing experience. I love to read, and I think I'm a good storyteller. So for me, it was somewhat easy. I from there hired two different editors and ran it through its paces to get it perfect. And it finally is, but it was definitely a process. It was probably about 2 years that I worked on it,
Yeah.
not consistently, but 60,000 words is a lot. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how many total pages is it then? You got to be running
I
like,
think it's 268, but font
Jesus.
size is a huge difference. So it's it's
Holy,
it's pretty thick. This is the actual book.
that is fantastic. Um, and again, click on the link below and order your copy today. And when we get up and live again, you got to just do like a book signing here.
Yes.
That would be fun.
Very
That
nice.
would be fun. I know other of our friends have showed up for your book signings, and it's a lot of fun. It's like, and you get a book and a reading. Here you go.
And a
Um,
cupcake. I give away free cupcakes at my book signings.
oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
I swear.
Like, how great is that?
Yes.
It's like I'm always ready to like hang out with Spirit and everything else. But on the flip side of that, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I have like a weakness right here, and most of this is Cupcake.
Oh, I
Telling
didn't
you, like this part right here
have
is the
cupcakes.
Cupcake.
All right. Well, I make the best ones.
Anyways, it's kind of fun. So so listen, you also, yeah, and of course you throw a curveball at me, and I'm like, oh, so what's new in the news? I love asking people what's new in the news. In other words, like what's your billboard?
Yes.
And then here I am. I'm thinking she's gonna say like, hey, I've got this new studio project. I'm doing this filming. I'm gonna launch a like. I expected you to say like, oh, I'm on Patreon, buddy. Like, I'm doing this, that, and the other. I was waiting for that. But instead you throw the other ultimate curveball and you go, oh, well, I'm finalizing a patent right now.
Yeah. I got it. I went through the process. I got my patent. I got my trademark. Yeah, it's a huge experience. So I'm going for like the Shark Tank, Sarah Blakely vibe. Go for
That's
it.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So it's clothing, fashion industry related. Walk me through the process. Like, how did it come from Spark to where you are now? And again, totally want to keep the copyrights and everything else, under wraps as you launch this. But I really want to know about the process. Like, was it a matter of you like, sitting down and working the clay, and did you need new tools? Did you have to figure this out, just like you figured out cupcakes, just like you figured out photography? How did you apply those things into what you do now?
Yes. So it all started, I had the idea, and I was like, oh, I should do something about that. And then one night I went to bed and I had a dream, and it was really like I woke up and it was spirit telling me, you got to get on this now. Don't wait another day. Do it. It's going to be successful. And then that very next day, I began the prototype process where I'm actually building this invention. And and then from there, I contact a patent attorney, and I'm going through all of these steps. Now I'm in the manufacturing and prototype phase where I'm doing die cast molds. And like, so it's huge. I'm learning so much I've never known about this end of being an entrepreneur. The inventing, you're taking on something new. So it's a lot of creating from ground up.
Yeah, and this is what I'm hearing as you're speaking. You've had successes and failures in the past. We focus in on the successes, but what you were working on when you were becoming a photographer and making cupcakes and being an author is you were paying attention to your process.
Yeah.
So when it came time to be like, oh, here you go, and you trusted that there was a process involved, you had the determination, the natural born skill of saying, forget everybody, I got this, right? Like anybody that's worth their salt in this work, and when I mean work, I mean bringing creative ideas to light.
Yes.
You're driven by something you can't tangibly explain. You're just like, I'm going to tell you, I get up in the morning, I begin to think about it, and I have a routine based around that. Whether it's a list, whether it's meditation, whether it's conversations, whatever, you've got that part down. But it prepared you to get to a point saying, even if you went back to your former self of like, even 20 years ago, could you see yourself inventing something that would need a
No, no.
patent?
I mean, I had an idea back in 2015 and I thought about this. I was like, what is the difference? So I came up with an invention in 2015. I made a little prototype. I went to the library and did the 3D CAD model,
Wait,
prototype.
wait, wait. Hold on a second. What's a library for
I know, right? I'm obsessed with libraries. It's like my favorite place. So you can either
Well,
find
of
me at
course,
the
they were
library.
really big in the 1950s, Lorraine. They
I
were they were huge in the
I
1950s.
just love them.
That's where you went on dates. You do
Yeah,
realize that.
yeah,
Like that was the social media.
yeah.
Social media used to be libraries. Oh my gosh, I'm so making that into a meme.
Yes, and I need to be alive. I should have been. See, I knew
You
it.
should have been a librarian. Well, your look is halfway there, pinup girl. But with that process, though, I mean, even within these challenges, where like on the surface, you're just like, the thing that you can show off is that you can literally say things like, hey, everybody, she's an entrepreneur and she's a photographer and she's this, that, and the other thing. And it's really cool and it's fun to say. But when you start talking about the work that goes into it, don't you realize that that work brought you forward? So then you had this monumental uphill, oh my gosh, I never would have pictured this
Yeah.
point of view. And now you're just like, well, it's just one step in front of the other, just like everything else.
Yes, it prepared me. All of those past journeys prepared me for now to be, because like I said, in 2015, I came up with a product I never acted on. I wasn't ready emotionally, whatever, spiritually, but now I was ready. So I'm making it happen, which feels amazing to take that next level. And I'm so excited to be like able to call myself an inventor, add that to the
So cool.
biography.
Isn't that great? And it's not, and again, based on everything that you're saying, it's not like, I can't tell you how many times I've met people. And again, I was in corporate recruiting for 15 years. So, I would even like work with like, students just out of school, that sort of thing. And you're like, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then they're like, I want to be an actor and a lawyer and a doctor and a film student, and I want to shoot a movie. I want to be a producer. And then I want to get my golf handicap down to, 8 and blah blah, and you're just like, what like what? And there's a feel of that every day, and when you become a taskmaster like you are, it becomes like you quit worrying about like filling out the resume and then going and get the resume,
Yeah.
but instead you just feel your way with that. And I think that's a very valuable, if anybody can get anything out of this podcast, on top of the dynamicness that Lorraine is, it's the idea that you let it and you trusted it as you kind of went along with it. That's the part, like you and I got into a conversation, like the first time we spoke, and you were just like, what the freak was that? Just book me.
Yes.
Like here I am, I'm like trying to arrange a date, to be like, hey, this is when we can do it, and the other person, and blah blah blah. And then you were just like, why am I talking to you about like quantum physics? What I got, like I was more interested, like how are you going to coach me? How are you going to like? I needed to be mentally prepared for that. And it was also, and the other thing, and this is, a sidebar compliment in all of this, it's like, sometimes when I meet people, even in professional, it's like I'll sit with them and then they'll be like, so is my grandmother around me? You were just like, tilt your head.
Yeah. It was like,
You were
stop
like,
slouching. I think I told you that a couple times too. I was like, sit up straight. Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time,
No, I was very
every,
on point with you.
every time I scroll across, and by the way, one of the other great ways you can connect with her is on, you got some really fun stuff out
Oh
on,
my gosh, yeah.
yeah, out on Instagram, and again, here you are kind of doing the cosplay, Harlequin. And talk about that, because you were actually like a featured, look at you go. You
Yes.
were a feature in the Comic-Con up in Saratoga, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I was a special guest. I'm also one of the judges for the costume contest every year. So I got into the whole cosplay modeling world. I obviously love to dress up and I love wigs and costumes. So I just started doing cosplay and I have 2 shoots next week actually,
That's
where
awesome.
I'm being characters. So I'm still doing this. It started in 2018. So it's
Yeah,
very
this
new,
is
the cosplay modeling. Prior
yeah,
to
it's
that, I
crazy. And I
yeah,
know I'm going like, way back, but it's like,
yeah.
it's fun, and I think and again, you go back to the thing where, and then you just get like over the top, and you're just like, I'm
Yeah.
so going to be in character. But don't you? Oh, and I love this one. This was
Yeah.
a great thing.
Yeah.
Um, don't you kind of see the entire idea? I know, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
my neighbors love me. I walk out the door like that.
listen. I'm in between a hair studio, a jujitsu place, and in an evangelical church. So trust
Oh,
me, I know something about neighbors. Um, and it's just a really cool thing insofar that don't you see? I mean, I see it.
mhm.
The kind of creativity, the play that you need, and still kind of make a career out of it. Like that's the part that I sit back and I'm like, she's got it.
Yeah.
You got it going on. Um, so was cosplay like something like you didn't really find until a few years ago, or was
Yeah,
it?
I just didn't even consider it. I was always known as the pinup girl, the pinup model, but then I realized I think Harley Quinn was my first ever. And then I saw how I was good at it, how I felt comfortable doing it. And then I just started building my costumes from there. And then
That's awesome.
when, Comic Con asked me to be a part and a special guest and to sign autographs of my prints, I was like, oh, this is cool. I can make something of this.
Oh wow.
So,
And I mean, when you think about it, doing pinup model work is like the original cosplay when you
yeah.
when you really think about it. And it's funny. So I do want to kind of circle back to that 1950s feel that you have with that. So clearly, that is one of the indicators of past life work.
Oh,
100%. Have you ever done past life regression work?
I did once. Yes.
Fantastic. So did you bring yourself right to the 1950s, or were like when you got there you're like, this is like, the 1400s, and I'm on a ship, and I'm stricken with scurvy. Like this sucks. Like what kind of life is this?
Yeah, well, I didn't actually regress myself, so I guess I retract that. But they did some kind of thing where it was like you said in the 1400s, and I was a warrior and I was stabbed, but nothing came up about the 1950s, unfortunately.
Well, I have found that, many lives, many masters. My
Yes, that's
regards,
one of my
Brian
favorite
Weiss.
books. Oh my God, I love that book.
I read people for a living. It's what I do.
Yes.
So, and it's called Funny You Should Say That. And the part of it for me, with past life, and when I went and I got my certification for regression work, it was me understanding where it fits into people's lives. I mean, you are literally living a piece of your past life moving forward. whether it's in spirit and soul work or whatever, and the fact that you embrace it the way that you do, quite frankly, for somebody that does what I do for a living, it's actually really refreshing. And listen, to some people, it's quirky and threatening.
Mhm.
Where they sit there and they're like, she's the one that, and then meanwhile, you're just like, and, you're just like, so. But on the other side of that, there's also the part of it where you feel alive. Like when you're in that mode, when you're in that 1950s, whether it's pinup mode, whether it's taking, photographs of old trucks or whatever, how do you feel? Like you're in a past life moment. How do you feel physically,
I feel
tangibly?
truly me. I feel like I am who I'm supposed to be. That's my genuine self. I feel glamorous. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. I feel at home. I feel at peace. So, yeah.
So you, my dear, I have been pulling cards for
Oh yes, I
as
love
we've
this.
been talking,
Nice.
because that's kind of one of the fun things where it's like, okay, here you go. And again, my information is down below as well. It's a book and so forth and so on, but you guys know me well enough to know, just reach out to me in all sorts of stuff. I'm more than happy to answer questions and go from there. But I do readings for a living, so don't stand next to me in the grocery store and say, "Is my grandmother next to me?" The answer is yes, and I gotta buy pickles. That literally happened to me the other day.
Oh, that's horrible. Okay.
Lorraine, I literally, there was and it was a guy. It was a
Yeah.
guy. He's like looking at me. He goes, and he leans right into me, and he goes, "My wife watches you."
Oh, creepy.
I could smell the cigarettes through his mask. Um,
Oh.
and I'm like, "Hi, how are you?" And he goes, "Dead people." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, we've got a sentence." Um, so as I was pulling the cards, it was funny. The past life thing comes up a lot for you.
Oh.
Like it really does, and kind of right out of the gate. So you dream like kind of off the chart, don't you?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. So right out of the gate, I'm going to give you the moon card. By the way, I've got a lot of cards here. I'm going to go kind of quick,
Okay.
but the moon card actually really kind of talks about being in between two worlds. It's also having high intuition. The first card I pulled for you was the moon. So you're on a everyday intuition podcast with reason. By the way, next out of the gate is temperance. This actually talks about the fact that you find balance in things. And
Okay.
by the way, balance in the physical and the spiritual and the mental, that sort of thing. Like you need to be propelled in a lot of different ways. And you are insanely optimistic. When's your birthday, by the way? What's your sign?
I'm a Sagittarius.
You're
Like,
Sagittarius, because
oh
I
my
knew you were
God.
kind of December. This makes perfect sense
Like,
because, yeah, because the Fool really kind of talks about just angelic optimism. The Fool, I mean, listen, if I'm talking about a person in your life, like a bow, like a like a like a cowboy, and
oh,
I pull the Fool card,
yeah.
then you're really, it could be the literal fool. It could also mean, its true meaning, which is insanely optimistic. Look at all the signs and symbols, by the way.
Huh.
You've got puppy dogs running around, you got
Blue
butterflies
butterflies.
flying.
Oh,
What's that?
the blue butterfly. That's a Mariposa. Yes. Oh, your screen froze. Maybe you'll come back. Or I froze. One of us froze. Oh, I think I might have lost you. Are you there? Hi.
Unfreaking believable.
I was like, where did it go?
So clearly, so this is all I see. Like I see you like in your frame going ha, and like you were frozen. It was kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Don't worry, I'll edit it.
And it
So,
was right
anyways,
when
hi everybody.
Mariposa. It was right when I said Mariposa. So I don't know if there's significance to that.
What is it? What
Um,
did you say?
you were showing me the card, and I said, "Oh, the blue butterfly. That's known as Mariposa." Yes, and that's when it went away.
Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
So this is your like insane optimism. And by the way, this is also part of the reason why when you look at a mountain, you go, I got this.
Yeah.
You don't worry about the elements, you don't worry about it being cold. You don't worry about it being like I've never hiked a mountain before.
Yeah.
You would stand at the base of Kilimanjaro and say, "Hold my beer."
Yeah.
Like that's just the way you roll, right?
And I actually did that in reality at 3 years
Shut the
ago.
front. Did you
Like
really?
3 weeks ago, not Kilimanjaro, but a huge mountain in the ice in like the coldest day in treacherous conditions, not prepared. But I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
It's
Why
like,
not?
let's see, what do I have? I have a windbreaker and I have a couple of granola bars. Oh my
And
God, I'm so in nature. And
yeah,
the
and
next
it's
thing you
your
know,
mom.
you're like, this, this landscape was perfect.
Yeah, and it was.
This is what drives you
Okay.
right there. That's
That's
kind of
cool.
where you're always going. And then, why stop there? So then I pull these two cards together. So you've got the Two of Wands, which, by the way, can also really speak to having past lives. You're living in two worlds, but you're also very principled.
Ooh,
You really are.
what's
And
principle mean?
and by the way, with the Temperance card, can also talk about how you might have lost your principles at times, and then you got back to them.
Oh,
And again, without divulging too much, this is like your brass tacks at the end of the day. You've
okay.
learned your lessons. You're very, listen, I know I'm on a mission. I got to get to this. Everything else be damned.
Yes.
Right?
So
And
true.
then it's like, if it doesn't speak to the mission, don't speak to me.
Yes.
Right? By
Yeah.
the way, very Aquarius energy. So, how you have acted and behaved in all of your career stuff is what the rest of us are actually going through now. Isn't it crazy?
I'm ahead of times then, I
You're a
guess.
Renaissance woman. Actually, you're more of a 1950s woman, but you're a Renaissance woman all at the same time.
Yes.
And then, of course, the Two of Wands is about the multiple options that you have, the past lives that you're going to pull forward. You're living in two worlds. So, spirit stuff is probably pretty easy for you. And then I pull two cards that you're going to laugh at. Is the number eight significant to you?
Not
Listen,
really.
don't force it. Don't
Yeah,
force
no.
it. But now pay attention because I literally pulled these two cards out because I asked kind of like your personality in all of this and kind of like how you want to be known as I was drawing the cards. And these are the two cards that came out. Are you ready?
Okay.
We've got the Eight of Swords, which is also sometimes known as the Diva card.
Ooh, that's so me. Yes.
Yeah, it's so you, right?
Perfect.
But then it's also like you fly blindly a little bit, but then you
Yeah.
also like whatever's kind of going on around you, you're like, forget this, I'm going within.
Yes.
So when I asked you the questions like, hey, how do you keep your guff going? You're just like, dude, I just keep moving.
Yeah.
And by the way, you throw in a workout or two, you go on a walk, you do something with your son, like you've got it down where you're like, I'm on a mission with this. And then you've got the Eight of Wands,
Oh,
which is new ideas. You have to keep it fresh all the time.
yes, I do.
If you had to do photo shoots every day for a week, you'd be like, I'm okay if I never do this again.
Yes, that is so
So
me.
you would get burned out, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's totally this. But how about the diva card for you?
Yeah, I'm so a diva.
Oh yeah. I was like,
That's
listen, design it.
perfect. That's so me.
But then the Eight of Wands talks about the new ideas, the fact that you're like, all about like new entrepreneurial spirit and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. And by the way, I'm just going to poke my head in this. You have another new idea. And by the way, I think this actually talks about the patent because I was drawing these cards when you were talking about the patent.
Okay.
And what's really interesting is the Page of Pentacles comes up. This is new idea,
Oh, it
new
is.
creative energy. And by the way, this is also kind of like a planning stage because as you see this beautiful peacock over here,
Oh,
the peacock's feathers are kind of still furled. He hasn't
okay.
opened up.
Yeah.
So with that, this actually talks about like new idea, like I'm not going to show my hand yet,
Okay.
but I got a really good idea.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more.
And does the green mean, is that symbolism for wealth and prosperity on that little card there?
Yes, on that little card there. Way to minimize like, 800 years of like
Oh,
tarot
like little,
introduction.
physically
That
little.
little pentacle there. Well, pentacles actually represent, and again, I love to educate. So the pentacles, yes, on the bare surface, it means, it can mean money, but it also means resources. It also means inspiration. It means passion. It means, it's the same energy of, money has the exact same energy as two friends grabbing a cup of coffee.
Yes.
So if you're not spending cash out of your pocket, maybe you're spending the time where you could be doing something else. And in our case, anytime I spend time with someone, you know, I, I used to get really frustrated when people would like take up my time and be like, okay, all right, we made our point. Because of course, being a medium, I'm like, I know where this is going. Get me out of here.
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
By the way, everybody that I'm friends with just like recap this and we're like, really? B? Thanks. But on the other side of it, when you start to enjoy it, and one of the things I've really kind of learned is just to be able to sit in the moment and be able to do that. Well, this actually speaks to that as a process, as a learning curve, as everything else. I think this speaks just as much to the resources, and Pentacles mean the resource too, and the energy that you're putting into this is like it's a perfect invention card, quite frankly, because what you're really saying is I really got something here. Look at him hold it.
Yes. He's
Like
proud.
he's holding it on his heart. He's like, I got this. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's good.
it's a real thing for you. And by the way, when you look at the Rider-Waite tarot, he's holding it up and he's showing it as if like, see, I'm gonna hold this in front of you. This is my idea. I am owning this.
Okay.
Same idea,
Good.
right? This is going places because if I can predict a damn thing, here it is. So then I pulled the World card and then the Ten of Pentacles. So the World card talks about two things. In terms of timing, it talks about like a yearly cycle.
Okay.
And then it is also the denouement, if you will, of the 22 major arcana. In other words, this is kind of a pinnacle for you. Like you're stepping into something that is bigger than yourself. And again, if this brings in for you what that is meant to, then what you're really, really doing. And by the way, Sagittarius is represented by the eagle here. Just to let you know. The symbolism on the World card is actually about the seasons. So it's about kind of the winter season, if you will. And then in this regard, it's also, it can also kind of speak to how big this is going to be for you.
Is it big? Is it huge?
Because the cards say yes, kid.
Yay!
Because you go from a Page of Pentacles to the Ten of Pentacles.
Okay. So it's huge.
And then you're like, so that little card, what does that little card say?
Yeah, what does that little card say?
So the Ten of Pentacles actually talks about you might want to get an offshore account.
Okay. Because there's so much income.
Well, there's so much energy. And again, remember when I said the money or the energy?
Yes.
There's a lot of energy coming in. This is about opportunity. So it might mean that your opportunity is coming in. Again, if you want to just sit back and go like, my patent's worth millions, thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, no.
That's not how you operate. You will never sit on your ass for more than 10 minutes.
Yes.
It's just how you're built, right? So my interpretation of this for you is more of look at all the opportunities coming. And by the way, that opportunity might also include you having a little more bank so then you can do the next investment. That might be a little more coin so you and your son take off for a week. Do you see where I'm going with this? So it's more resources to do with what you want to. Okay. So it can translate to money, but it might also be like, so now I am doing this next crazy thing. When insert crazy thing that you don't expect from Lorraine, but yet you expect from Lorraine. I think I joked around with her and I'm like, of everybody that like is friends with you that say that as soon as you say, yeah, I'm going to LA tomorrow because I've got to do an ABC, 0 people would be shocked that follow your feed or understand who you are at all. Because they would just sit back and be like, well, of course she's going to LA. Of course she's doing that. This is going to lead to more of those opportunities.
Oh, good. I love that.
Does that make sense?
That's
so,
perfect.
Sure, money, but also on a bigger scale, it's also about the opportunity with this. And you are all about the celebration. Here's your final card. This is a celebration.
Okay.
The party always follows you.
Okay, that's good. I love to celebrate moments too.
Yeah, and it's funny. I don't know if 3 is significant to you or what the deal is, but whenever you see the 3 of Cups, it's about living in your passion. Can't make this stuff up.
Can't.
Shuffled and rolled.
It's almost like you know what you're doing.
It's funny. I mean, can somebody please send that to my mom? Should be.
Hi, Mom.
I love her to death, but she'd be like, you forgot to ask her this, and I'd be like, oh, okay. But anyways, listen, I want to thank you for being a guest here today. Sorry about the technical thing. For some reason, and I have to tell you, I've had only one other time where that came through, where like I lost the internet. I wasn't even in this location. I was literally in the middle of teaching a class, and there was a flash and everything went out. And I was like, holy crap, like the electricity went out. That's the first time the internet actually went out. But
I don't know. Maybe it was me, or I did say that word Mariposa. So I'm going to look up that significance.
Yeah, totally. And you know what, too? What was I just thinking about here? Do you find electronics like work weird around you?
Sometimes, and it's definitely spirits or energy. Well, it's more me energy. Like I'll meet new people and they're like, "Whoa, your energy!" Like I'm too much for a lot of people. So maybe I shorted your internet. I don't
Not
know.
here, kid. Not here. Not here. I'm just letting you know. But it's interesting though. It's funny, and I've talked about this, and I've had students, that have had this happen as well, and it's kind of funny. Um, I have shorted out no less than like three car radios. Like, and it's just, and it was different vehicles. So at first you're like, oh, there's a short in it, and blah blah blah. I would believe that with one of the vehicles, but to have it happen in multiple vehicles, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing something here. And what's funny is that we live with it every day, and then when you tell somebody, they look at you like you got nine heads.
Oh, absolutely.
And do you start the conversation like this, like you're not going to believe this, but
Yes, all the time. Well, most of the time I don't even go there unless it's someone like you. I don't talk about energy and all that because they just think I'm crazy. Like, okay, sure, Lorraine. Yeah,
that's why you hang out with so many mediums.
probably.
Like, pay
Like,
attention.
you guys get me.
Pay attention.
Yes.
Pay attention to some of this and be like, hey, listen, you're actually one of us. But how you choose to deliver is empowering people. And that's why I thought you were the perfect guest today, because you really do empower people, whether it's like, the fun playfulness of a photo shoot, the cosplay, showing the inspiration of being an entrepreneur, an author, making incredibly stupidly good cupcakes. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus. Support the arts so we can have more cupcakes.
Yes,
How about
please.
that one?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Right?
Hopefully September. That's the goal when Broadway and all that reopens.
Yeah, but but you hear something like that, and I know how you work. You literally think to yourself, I only have so much time to get this all in.
Oh my God, that's so true. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess I have to work on the patent and my invention and before September. Well, plus I have weddings booked for October on, so I
Oh,
know.
good.
Yeah.
And listen, I keep telling people this, like, the respite is almost over, and rightfully so. And this isn't being political or commentary on this, but it's real.
Mhm.
This whole COVID thing is very real, and again, call for better accuracy in numbers and handling and all that other good stuff. But to a business owner, how has COVID, affected you positively, through all of this?
Well, the patent, it got me to do that, to actually act on that. So it's been amazing. And I've done more self work and I've started writing my fourth book. So it's
Oh,
coming to
do you
me.
want to tease that?
Oh yeah, so it's very Eat, Pray, Love, like Oprah's book club, true to life again. Inspirational, empowering. I would love it made into a movie. So yes, it's called White Picket Fences. So I'm gonna let you guys run with.
Stop. Are you kidding me? So I have this thing every time that I say to people, you get to a certain point in your life and it's 2.3 kids and a white picket fence.
Yeah.
I say it all the time because
Uh,
people are coming out, the fool card comes out and everybody's like, I'm so optimistic and I'm going to, I have people that will come to me for a reading, and it's one time in their life, their idea of like what the next step is I'm going to be a nurse and they're going to be a doctor and we're going to have 2.3 kids and a white picket fence and they're going to drive an Audi and I'm going to drive blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And then the funny part is that then they're just like, their coping mechanism is about how that reality didn't happen.
oh my God, and that's the point of the book is this woman, she thinks she just wants a white picket fence, but yeah, no, it's not that easy.
So somewhere in the book say, that she lives in a pristine neighborhood, an upscale neighborhood, and then she finds rusted out trucks.
Oh, there we go.
What a freaking metaphor. I'm a bit of a muse.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Meanwhile, you're just like, that's a stupid idea, Brandon. But I had to tell you that for one reason or another. It'll get you to another spot. All right. So, Lorraine, thank you so much. And again, click below for all the fun stuff that she's got going on, all of her social media, all of her books. Pick up her book. It's actually a fun read. Even though it's 280 pages or 260 pages, you must have gotten writer's cramp. And stay tuned for the patent stuff. And I would love to have you back once the patent comes out because I'd love to hear the rest of the story.
Yes, I would love to tell everyone about it. I'm so proud and I want to help people. So it's going to help people.
That's awesome. And by the way, did you send in your application for Shark Tank yet?
No, because they need Shark Tank wants you to have like a year or 6 months worth of sales. So my goal is like September when they start casting again to be then. So I need to like actually have a product to sell, you need a sales track record.
So let's do this then. Let's plan to do this. When you do the launch, just shoot me a message. We're going to have you on again, and we're going to talk about this so everybody can kind of see what this is. And if it speaks to you, you can get the sales going.
Yes, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, Lorraine, thanks so much. And again, since we can't hug and handshake and we're kind of in this distance here, we give each other the heart tap. So we tell each other we love and care for one another until we can meet again. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for Everyday Intuition. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that other stuff that people say on YouTube videos. I know you love the content and I know you're going to follow. Follow Lorraine everywhere she goes as well. Let her be an inspiration and let every day be an inspiration. And remember to keep going.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.